Good afternoon, everyone. Previous class, we start to discuss about warfare for wealth. Warfare for wealth. So here, how the kings they were going to occupy others to get and to become powerful and so on. And previous session, we learned this concept with the example of how Muhammad Ghazni was attacked and invaded India about 17 times. Okay, and even so, Sultan Muhammad, he was interested in finding out more about the people of our subcontinent also, wherever, especially he conquered, and even so, he was interested a scholar who named Al-Biruni to write an account of the subcontinent. So after that, in Arabic language, Al-Biruni, he was written an account about our Indian subcontinent. Which was named as Kitab al-Ilm. So this all we learned in the previous class. And even to compose these accounts, the Al-Biruni, was consulted so many other Sanskrit scholars also. See, dear students, so the other kings also were engaged in warfare, included the Chauhans. So later they are called as Chauhan. Later they were well known as Chauhans. So Chahamanas. Chahamanas. So later they were well known as Chauhans. See here they were ruled over the region around Delhi and Ajmer. So around Delhi and Ajmer. So here dear students, these Chahamanas they were attempted to expand their control, especially to the west and the east. So it is a very common. So the most of the rulers, they were trying to extend and they were expand their territories. See, especially here the Chahamanas or Chauhans, they were tried and they were attempted to expand their control over to the west and east, where they were opposite by the Chalukyas of Gujarat and the Gahadawalas of western Uttar Pradesh. See here, the best known Chahamana ruler we all of knows that Prithviraj Chauhan was a very famous Chauhans or Chahamanas leader. So Prithviraj Chauhan was ruled in 1168 to 1192 and defeated an Afghan ruler named Sultan Muhammad Ghor. So he was actually defeated Muhammad Gori in 1991 but lost to in the very next year in 1992. Understood. So once he was defeated Muhammad Gori and then in 1991 and then in 1992 he was lost to him the very next year in the warfare. So now let us discuss about from Urayur to Tanjavur. From Urayur to Tanjavur. From Urayur to Tanjavur. See, dear students, how did these Cholas rise to power? Chola dynasty. We all of you knows that. So the Cholas, they are very famous dynasty in the southern part of our subcontinent. Especially, the Muttarayyar. The Muttarayyar held power in the Kaveri Delta also. So, here they were subordinate to the Pallava kings of Kanchipuram. So, these Cholas, they were subordinate to the Pallavas of Kanchipuram. So, especially Vijayalaya. who belonged to the ancient chiefly family of the Cholas from Urai. See, he captured the delta from the Muttarayar in the middle of the 9th century and he built the town of Tanjavur and a temple of goddess, a famous goddess Nishumba Sudini. Nishumba Sudini. Okay, see here the Tanjavur is so famous even though till today also. See, the successors of Vijayalaya conquered neighboring regions and the kingdoms and they were grew in size and power also. They were become very powerful. So the Pandyan and the Pallavas territories to the south and north were made part of this kingdom. So this Chola's kingdom. So because they were extended successfully. And Rajaraja first. So he was considered as the most powerful Chola ruler. Rajaraja first. And he was became a king in 1985 and expanded control over most of these areas. So even the west also, even the east and north also, he was extended and then he was becoming a very powerful king of this Chola dynasty who came to power in 1985. See, he also reorganized the administrations of the empire and Rajaraja's son Rajendra first, so he was continued his policies and even raided the Ganga Valley also. So the same way how the Rajaraja first he was done the administration, the same thing it was followed by his son Rajendra first also. He was continued his policies and even he was raided the Ganga Valley also. So Sri Lanka and other countries of Southeast Asia and even the Raja Rajendra, so he was developing a navy for these expeditions. So he was actually so conquered and extended its territories. So even out of the southern part of the subcontinent, so it's including the Sri Lanka and countries of Southeast Asia also. Now let us discuss about little bit splendid temples and bronze sculptures. Splendid temples and bronze sculptures. So before go, so we have to keep it in our mind. So Raja Raja, he was first, he was the one of the famous ruler in this Chola dynasty. Okay, and afterwards, so his son Rajendra Chola or Rajendra first, so he was became the successor, and then even so he was extended its kingdom up to the Sri Lanka and even the Southeast Asia also. And the Rajendra first, he was continued whatever the policies introduced by the Raja first, okay, and also he was extended and he was raided up to the Ganga Valley also. Now let us discuss about splendid temples and bronze sculpture. See, dear students, the big temples of Tanjavur and Gangaikonda Cholapuram, so built by Rajaraja Chola and Rajendra Chola. So they are architectural and sculptural marvels even till today. The Tanjavur it's so famous for its architectural marvels. Especially so the big temples of Tanjavur and even Gangaikonda Cholapuram. So these were built by Rajaraja and Rajendra. So already last class, I mean the in the beginning I told that. So Rajendra first, so he was raided up to the Ganga Valley. So that's why. So in the name of Gangai Kunda Cholapuram. Antedi, so he was built architectural sculpture. Gangai Konda Cholapuram. Okay, see the Chola temples often became the nuclei of settlements which grew around them. The Chola temples often became the nuclei of settlements which grew around them. So these were countries of craft production. So because of these, so and surrounded, so the what we call the nuclei of settlements, and even especially so these were centers of crops production also. These were become so and developed centers of the crop production also. And here temples were also endowed with land by rulers and as well as by others also. So here what happened? So these temples were also endowed with land by rulers and as well as by others also. See, the produce of this land, whatever they are producing, the lands, so went into maintaining all the specialists who worked at the temple and very often lived near it. For example, priests and garland makers and even cooks also, sweepers also, and even the musicians also, dancers also, etc. etc. And in other words, temples were not only places of worship. Are you getting now? So temples were not only the places of worship, so they were the hub of economic, social, and cultural life as well. Because here, if there is a temple means, if there is a the popular temple means, so the different kinds of people they used to live together. So, and even the small nuclear settlements are grew around the temples. It was very common during the period. So, the people, so especially those who were lived nearest to these temples, especially priests, garland makers, and also the cooks, sweepers, musicians, dancers, and so on. So, even the small traders also. So, that's what. So the temples were not only places of worship, so even though they were the hub of economic, social, and cultural life as well. See, amongst the crafts associated with the temples, the making of bronze images was the most distinctive. It was one of the very talented, and then it was one of the very attractive work and distinctive work done by the sculptors. See, the Chola branch bronze images are considered amongst the finest in the world. The Cholas, whatever they were created, so the bronze images, so the images were considered the whole world, the finest bronze image in the entire. So that's what. So here the most images were deities. Sometimes what happened? No, the images were made of devotees also as well. Now let us discuss about agriculture and irrigation. Agriculture and see, agriculture and irrigation, it's so important for any dynasties. See, many of the achievements of the Cholas were made possible through new developments in agriculture. See, the river Kaveri branches off into several small channels before emptying into the Bay of Bengal. So before reaching the Kaveri river, so it's created so many the canals. So these channels overflow frequently and depositing fertile soil on the banks of the delta. And even water from the channels also provides the necessary moisture for agriculture, particularly the cultivation of rice. Okay, see here agriculture had developed early in the parts of Tamil Nadu. It was only from the 5th or 6th century that this area was opened up for large scale cultivation also during 5th and 6th century. See, forests had to be cleared in some regions because of agricultural purpose, and land had to be leveled in their other areas also. So they were leveled the land and even they were cleared the forest also. So in the delta region, embankments had to be built to prevent the flooding, and canals had to be constructed to carry water to the fields also. So in many areas, two crops were grown in the area also, because I mean grow in the year in the same agriculture year. So the farmers in this area, in this region, so they were able to grow so yearly two crops also. See, in many cases, it was necessary to water crops artificially. because a variety of methods were used for irrigation. So they were used the different types of irrigation methods, and in some areas wells were dug, and even in other places used tanks were, the big large tanks so were constructed to collect rainwater also. See here, the irrigation work requires planning, organizing the labors and resources, and also maintaining those works and deciding on how water is to be shared. So this is what's needed in agricultural field. So, most of the new rulers, as well as people living in villages, took an active interest in these type of agricultural activities. I hope, dear students, you all have understood about the agriculture and irrigation. Okay, now let us see the administration of the empire. The administration of the empire. See, during this period, how was the administration organized? Settlements and even the peasants. Okay, now let us discuss about the organization, how they were. See, settlements of peasants known as Vur. Are you getting now? The settlements of peasants. So where the peasants, so they used to settle. So those places used to called as a Vur. I think so. Nowadays we are using in Kannada or even in the Tamil say Vur, Vuru. Maybe that Vur derived from this Ur only. So Vur are actually the settlements of peasants, where the settlements were settled. So those regions used to called as a Vur. Okay. See here, Vur became more prosperous with the spread of irrigation agriculture, especially more prosperous with the spread of irrigation in agricultural field. So groups of villages formed larger units called Nod. So this is actually like Gur means it's like a village, and the group of villages called as Nadu. Even till today we are using the same in rural areas. Nadu means it is actually so the groups of village, okay, and the village council and the Nadu performed several administrative functions also. So here what happened? The village councils in the wood and even the Nadu also. So they were performing so several administrative functions. So including dispensing justice and collecting taxes also. So whatever they were performed now, the village councils, so that was including dispensing justice also, and also about collecting taxes also. They were collected taxes and even they were working as the justice. See here, rich peasants of the Vellala caste exercised considerable control over the affairs of the Nadu under the supervision of the central Chola government. Are you getting now? So here, rich peasants of the Vellala caste. So this is the name of the caste. So even till today, which is a very famous community in the Tamil Nadu. Vellala, it is actually one of the castes so who are controlled over the affairs of the Nadu. So and those were under the supervision of the central Chola government, Velladas. See, the Chola kings gave some rich land owners titles like Avelan or peasant serving three kings. So that's called as Muvenda Velan. Muvenda Velan. So Movenda Velan means, so actually a Velan or a Velan means peasant or farmer. So serving three kings, that is called as Movenda Velan. Movenda Velan. So who was serving for the three kings, peasant serving three kings. Okay, so they used to call as Movenda Velan. Are you getting? So Velan means, so Vella is the name of the highly caste, and Velan means farmer or peasant. Okay, now next, so there is a chief who is called as a Araya. Araya means chief. Araya. So this is also actually the Tamil word. The Arayar means chief or head. So these are all the different titles like Muvendavelan and Araya. Araya means chief and Muvendavelan means so the Avelan or peasant is serving three kings. Okay. See, even as makers of respect and entrusted them with important offices of the state at the center also. So during this time also, so the Brahmanas they were received the land, okay, and these grants used to called as Brahman Deya, Brahma Deya. So actually Brahma Deya, that means a land granted to Brahmanas. Understood? So the land, so which was granted to Brahmanas by the ruler or by the king, so which is called as Brahma Deya. Understood now? So as a result, a large number of Brahmana settlements emerged in the Kaveri Valley as in other parts of South India also. Because in the southern part of the subcontinent, so many kings and the rulers, those who are belongs to different dynasty, even including Chola dynasty especially, so they were granted oftenly a land to the Brahmanas, and those lands were used to call as Brahmadeyas. So throughout the Kaveri Valley and as well as in other parts of South India, there we can observe these kind of Brahmadeyas. See here, each Brahmadeyas was looked after by an assembly or sabha or prominent Brahmana landholders. Okay, so these Brahmadeyas were actually controlled by or looked after by an assembly that used to called as a sabha of prominent Brahmana landholders. See, these assemblies worked very efficiently and their decisions were recorded in detail in inscriptions also, often on the stone walls of temples also. And associations of traders known as nagarams are getting known. So, nagarams means associations of traders. Occasionally, they were performed administrative functions in towns. Okay. So regarding this, so let us continue in the next class. Thank you. Have a nice day.